Okay, moving along. Our next speaker, this is interesting, Chris Pizzo from General Motors, was in the ROTC program at Michigan State University, where he graduated and commissioned as an Army Field Artillery Officer in 2012. From 2012 to 16, Chris was stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas, and was deployed to Afghanistan in 2014. Chris left the Army in 2016 and began working at General Motors as the peer review process owner, where he was responsible for migrating the GM peer review process into Auros in 2017, and has since been using Auros for peer reviews since 2018. So forget about knowledge packets and knowledge aware and Auros. I think we all owe you a debt of gratitude for your service, so thank you very much for that. Chris.
All right. So thank you for the introduction. Like I said, my name's Chris Pizzo. I've been at General Motors for 3 years now. Been working in Auros for 2 of those years. Since then, the peer review process has, as Craig Brown said earlier, it really increased the amount of users within Auros. Currently, we have roughly 120 different peer review COPs with thousands of K-packs. We don't even know how many. I could do a poll, but it's quite an effort to get all those K-packs out of there. So I'm going to start off with a polling question. I know this was asked in the advanced class yesterday. Have you seen a team board? Have you created a team board? I was just interested to see if you are currently using team boards in any of your processes. So I believe the poll should be open now. For about half and half. Okay, so half of you are using team boards, half of you aren't. What I'm going to be doing today is going through the process that General Motors went through from migrating our peer review process from Excel into Auros. The biggest part of our peer review process has been team boards. So I've been fairly active in creating team boards, bringing in new groups and processes into using team boards at General Motors. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on. I'll be showing you the previous state of our process, how we migrated using bulk updating with K-packs and K-pack sets. I'll also be showing you the team boards, how we get automatic timing and how we generate team boards automatic through our timing system, and then how we've improved the process over the last 2 years. I already went through the introduction, so I'll just skip over to the previous state. So hopefully you can see this, but this was the old peer review Excel process. Each peer review checklist had a list of questions, topics, with a topic name, role responsible, and topic description. And then in the middle there's 3 columns, and that's showing the DRE, EGM, which meetings each of these topics should be held in. So they would go into this checklist, filter on the yeses, and they know which peer review it needed to be held in. Within that same Excel file, we also had the peer review timing expectation. So here you can see each meeting, like the first one, for example, is VIA program requirements, and the second one is critical integration. So they would call out the milestone that the meeting would be conducted in, and then what the offset expectation would be for that meeting. So basically what this is showing is a workflow, and that's how we used team boards to integrate into Auros, and you'll see how we did that. So here's the migration. As an example, I showed you one, I'm showing one of the peer review topics in this Excel file. We took and used the KPAC bulk updating because there were so many KPACs. Obviously, we didn't create these one by one. Created the import file and brought the Excel data into the KPAC. Our KPACs are very straightforward. We use them as checklists. We aren't using value tables or anything like that. It's just a checklist for what they are expected to review at that meeting. But what is important for us is the meeting requirement here. And this is where we started using extended elements that we could integrate with. At first, we used static sets, which was a rookie mistake, which I learned was a mistake very quickly. And then we started using dynamic sets, which is much easier. So we took those meeting types, added them as a peer review extended element, and generated what now are dynamic sets. So these peer review topics automatically get pulled into those KPAC sets, which I'm sure many of you already are aware of, and then we use those in the method, which I'll show in a little bit. For the individual meetings, we brought these right into the method KPAC. So here, instead of using Excel, we created nodes, 3 different nodes for the 3 peer reviews. VIA and critical integration became their own node, and we also integrated the timing with the checkpoint flags. So in each checkpoint flag, we created a title, the description that was in the Excel format, and then we also took the milestone and the offset and integrated it here. So for this peer review, we are able to pull in the VPI program milestone, which is brought into Auros directly from the program plan in our timing system, and our team boards will automatically set that offset for the engineers. I'm going to be going into more detail on how we did the connector from our timing system to Auros, but this is where we determine which milestone to pick. Next here, I'm going to show how we connected the sets. So I talked about how the whys determine which topic needs to be required in which peer review. So we created the sets, and by right-clicking on the node within the method KPAC, we can link those sets directly to the method. So here, for example, for the VIA program peer review, we have 2 different KPAC sets linked. The first is the VIA program requirements, which brings in the peer review topics that were determined to be required by the GSSLT and the engineering managers. We also created a set that would be used globally across the peer review, all peer review COPs, which is called the peer review not required KPAC set. What that does is gives the engineers an opportunity to create an assessment within that node saying that it's not required for whatever reason. For example, it could be carryover content and it wouldn't be required, there's not enough change to require a peer review for that node. And that gives them the opportunity to do that instead of assessing all 50 topics or whatever it would be. Now integrating this process into the team boards by using methods. So here's the exact same method KPAC that I just showed you in edit. Now it's in a team board. What's nice about the way we have the connector set up in Auros for GM is that when I have the ability to go into our timing system and initiate these team boards automatically. So when these team boards come in, I don't have to manually create it. I don't have to link the method KPAC or the master assessment to the team board at all. It comes in automatically assigned to the users that they're responsible for it. So this was done automatically for me. And it's tied to the specific project that was created in the timing system. So for example, the planned or the required completion date for the VIA program requirements review is 7 October 2019. This is generated directly from the program plan in our timing system, and if there's a retime, this date would change overnight through an overnight batch process. So there's no manual work by the global admin. All of this timing will update automatically. Here you can see the KPAC sets are linked to the team board through the node. The process that we use at GM is a little bit different than what was explained earlier. The responsibility falls on not the admin, but the EGM and the DRE responsible for this component and this project. So each team board is assigned to the DRE and the EGM, and they're responsible for creating the assessments. So this makes it easier for them. They don't have to search for sets in their COPs. They just click the 3 Auros button, or the set button, click Create Assessment, and automatically they have their peer review checklist available to them for assessing. As you saw earlier in other demonstrations, it also updates the status of the worst conformance state of the assessment. Because this is build in process right now, everything's not evaluated, so it's blue. You saw this already too. The engineers and the EGMs can have the status of the overall peer review. There are 5 KPACs linked to this assessment. And here in the checkpoint flag, the required completion date is listed, and the actual completion date would be updated after the peer review meeting was conducted by the engineer or the EGM. They can do that by filling out the required output parameter value field, and that'll update the checkpoint flag automatically. Once a checkpoint flag is updated, the Gantt is also updated as well. So the green and the gray diamonds that are listed at the top are pulling directly from the method KPAC that was created into a master assessment and linked to the team board. The black diamonds at the bottom are directly from the program plan from our timing system. So those weren't a bulk update or a bulk import. Those are automatically generated and don't have to be managed by admins, the EGMs, or the DREs. And like I said before, if there's a timing change, this Gantt wall will automatically update after the overnight batch. So there's no maintenance required. Now I'm going to start skipping through all the walls of the team board. I showed you the master assessment wall, I showed you the Gantt calendar, and now we're going to talk about the assessments wall. During the initial migration of the process, this was a fairly simple wall for us, and we didn't use it for anything other than peer reviews. So right now it's showing the one peer review assessment that was created, and that's it. I'm going to show you how, as the process has evolved and how we've gotten better, how we use this wall now. But 2 years ago, this is all it was used for, just a way for the DREs and the EGMs to access their assessments. Next is the issues wall. We also utilize this for issues tracking and issues management. Most of the issues are tracked and updated through the assessments, but the engineers do have the ability to track their issues here. Tasks are also generated on the tasks wall. This wall is not actively used for the peer review process, but we are looking for ways to utilize it better in the future. Right now, it's not utilized with the Gantt. So the reports wall, as Jeff was saying in the advanced class yesterday, we do use KPIs for our peer reviews, but we don't use KPIs on the reports wall. So we use the key performance indicators that you can set up through the team board to show the next required completion date from the checkpoint flags on the card in your project space. So one issue that we do have with team boards is I checked before I came up here, we have 7,600 team boards that have been generated through GM. Managers have hundreds of team boards to manage. So we utilize the KPIs to show the next checkpoint date for all of their team boards on the project, the team board card on the project wall, or the project space wall, and it makes tracking much easier. So that's how we use KPIs. You can also link reports here. It's rarely used for peer reviews, though. Next is the files wall. Here you can upload links to the wall or attachments. One way we do use this is you can attach training documentation here. If there's any questions, they can access their training. But we determine the business record is actually the assessment itself, so we ask that attachments are included on the assessment, not the team board. But this is just for an overview if anybody needed like training presentations or links. Finally, there's the overview wall, which is a different view of the Gantt calendar. This is, like I said, all program timing that was automatically updated. It can't be edited by the engineers or the EGMs because it's coming straight from the connector. Team board timing. So this is where I'm going to explain how we connected our timing system to Auros. So first we have the program timing system where we have peer review templates that I maintain. When a new program is created in our system, it connects to my template, ties project timing to that template, and pushes it to the data warehouse. From the data warehouse, we filter the data and split it into 3 different files that are sent to Auros. The first is project data. This is telling Auros what the name of the project is, what the model year of the project is, and how to name it on the team board. For example, 2023 ABC. The team board to project data is the file that tells Auros what team boards to create, what component the team board should be linked to, who should be assigned to the team board, and whether it should be created or not. So what's nice about this is I have the power to either set a trigger for certain peer reviews that will automatically kick off when the project is created in what's called momentum. So that will automatically trigger the peer reviews, or I can turn the trigger off and turn it on by request. So that's how that one works. And then the project attribute data is all of those milestones. So it will tell the team board which milestones to pull, what their timing is, and then it gives them the option to pull that on the method KPAC. And here's an example of all those milestones that are getting pulled. So this is the full list. The previous screen only showed a few. So for process enhancement, one request I get often is we need better training on how to conduct the peer reviews. When the peer reviews needed to be done, etc. I often get a PowerPoint presentation like this of their peer review, of a specific team's peer review process. So a specific EGM sent this to me requesting that I link it to the team board just so they could have a PowerPoint presentation to look at so they have a better idea of when their peer reviews are and then also when they have their exterior excellence reviews. So instead of adding this to the team boards as an attachment, what I did was add it to the method KPAC. To do this, I did a little bit of work to manipulate the PowerPoint, but added it as a canvas image to the back of the method KPAC. So instead of having just an attachment, we have a PowerPoint image that's actually in the method as a canvas. I overlaid the peer review workflow on top of the canvas to make it interactive. So instead of just having a dead PowerPoint file that they can look at, they're actually interacting with the information. And over the exterior excellence reviews, I added the checkpoint flags so they can track their timing from their PowerPoint. So now what was just a blank PowerPoint presentation has become part and integrated into the peer review process as a dynamic file. Now they can track their exterior excellence reviews when they're due. They can update the status of those reviews while also generating the peer review assessments from the normal peer review workflow. As you can see, there's also descriptors at the bottom, which has been very helpful as we're getting more and more users into the team boards. It's been a challenge getting them to understand the user interface. So help text like this is very beneficial, and they've gotten a lot of good feedback from this. Also, I added a node that's called Bigfoot Quick Tip Sheet. So that's where I also have another training PowerPoint presentation, a full presentation that I created for them, so they have easy access to that presentation. Okay, so another request I often get is that subsystems want to break out into specific component team boards. And it works fine. That's another team board. If they want their own unique team board, I can do that for them. But often what they want is the ability to have unique assessments by component. So instead of creating new team boards for every single component that wants a new team board, you can actually generate two workflows. An example is here. So we have the front and rear cradle peer review, as well as the Piech peer review workflow. Each one of these workflows has unique timing to the workflow. The checkpoints are unique. The KPAC sets are unique. And we also assign the different component engineers to the team board so they can have access to their workflows. This has been beneficial because that's less maintenance from the EGMs and the DREs. They only have one team board. They can track their assessments from the one team board, and they can see the status of the workflow in one location instead of managing two, especially because of the size of peer review at GM. If you create two instead of one team board, it could be 200 instead of 100, and it becomes unmanageable. So this is something that the leaders really like for tracking purposes. And the other nice thing is, when we updated the method KPAC, they wanted this updated across all team boards for their COP. So as the method was updated, we did not version it, so that way it pushed to all active team boards so they could start working on this new process automatically. If they, say they're past the peer review date, they could just mark it not required with the peer review not required KPAC set. It's worked out really well for the end users. And finally, linking multiple methods to one team board. One request that we had is for a checklist that the DREs could use to know what work needs to be done at the current gate that they're at. So what we did was created 20 different KPAC method KPACs and link them to one assessment. This way, the engineers can go into the team board, find the milestone that they're currently at, open that method, and they can see the status of those tasks. So here we have ICD initial creation. If they were to hover over that red checkpoint flag, they'd be able to see when the required completion date is for it. And what's even nicer, and I don't have it here, is on the Gantt, all of these are shown as tasks within the Gantt. And now that we have the export functionality for team boards in IQ1 release, we can do Excel exports and show the DREs for a specific project, all of their tasks, when they're due, what their status is, and all in one Excel file. And we can distribute that across everybody, which is really nice. It's something that we might be implementing in the future, maybe. So to select the different method KPAC, you can just click any of the milestones or the methods on the left. Like ESO, for example. And it'll automatically flip. So now the DREs can see when their timing is for all of the ESO milestones. also for the project assessments in the team board. So I mentioned that when we initially started using peer review, we used the assessment wall for peer review COPs only. However, engineers are responsible for more than peer review assessments in Auros at GM, obviously. What used to have to be done is the engineers would go to their My Stuff, they would search in the COPs, they would have to look in multiple locations to find all these different assessments that they're required to do. And what we've been able to do through the team board is pull all of those assessments into one location, which makes it easier for the DRE to manage all of the assessments. So what you're seeing here is the assessment wall broken up by COP that the assessment's created in. So the first one's PR62. So that's our peer review VPPS 62 COP. There were 2 assessments created in there, and the engineer has access to that. But they also have access to the BOAA SMT assessments as well as ICD assessments. So what they used, like I said, what they used to have to do is search, and now it's all in one easy location. The only thing is, though, to get this to work, the assessments need to be the same project ID as the team board. So I said a team board was project 2023 ABC. If the assessments are not project 2020 ABC, they would not populate here. But what they could do is go to the master assessment wall and link them to the, any of the nodes, and the assessment would be linked there. So one of the things that we're currently working through is making sure that all of the assessments are using the same projects that are getting pushed from our timing system. It makes it easier on the global admin, and it makes it easier on the engineers because they have all this information in one location in the team board. And then I did want to cover one more thing I forgot to bring up about the data integration with our timing system. So what's nice about that is that it's not a one-way street. We can also push data out of Auros to our data warehouse, and other tools throughout GM can use that. So earlier this morning, Craig was showing screenshots of our process documentation tool called Stages. A project that we recently worked on with the Stages team is integrating peer review assessment statuses with his tool. So now throughout the process of engineering, the engineers can see that they have a peer review coming up, but not only can they see that in Stages, they can actually see the status and when they were conducted from Auros. So the connector has been very helpful for us. It's really allowed us to scale to get those 7,000 team boards. Manually creating those would have been almost impossible. So I did want to say that it's a two-way street, and it's been awesome for us.